I want to get there, you know.
And I don't know the relevance of asking us how old we are. We still
I didn't put the questions together, so
I don't think it has any relevance when we announce our age.
Well, again, okay, then obviously you guys don't want that, so I won't ask that, okay?
I don't see the relevance.
So,
He's my big brother. He's old.
and I know how old you are. You know why? Because he told me. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started with this because I know you guys have some time constraints or what have you. But 496 Commission has received a grant from the National Park Service to do some history on the city of Lansing and how 496 impacted our community, the black community, and so forth. So we've gone around and we've asked a number of individuals, taken interviews, personal accounts, memories, and those type of things regarding this whole thing. And we're glad today that both of you took some time out of your business schedules to share that with us. So if you could please, I guess the first thing I would ask is how'd you guys get here? How'd your families get to Lansing, Michigan, where you came from and from the start? Many of us migrated from the South and what have you coming up here. Do you all have a story like that that you can share or anything like that?
My dad came here from Horse Cave, Kentucky.
Okay.
And he went to Eastern High School.
Okay.
And my mother came from Niles, Michigan, to get a job working for the state. And they were both valedictorian types in their class, but being not white, they didn't get any college offers of scholarship.
Right.
So they moved to Lansing.
Were you born here in Lansing?
St. Lawrence Hospital.
St. Louis. Okay. How about you, Greg?
My grandfather came here in 1905 from Detroit, and my grandmother came in from in 1880 from Chatham, Canada.
Okay.
But her, the Stevensons, came here too. So then everyone else was born here. My dad was born here, all my uncles. So from 1800s, early 1800s. And then my mother came to Albion in 1916 from Georgia. And she, she met my dad and married my dad. And all my great uncles were born here. They all were brick masons. They built the Michigan National Tower building, that building, the Olds Hotel, a lot of buildings out to the college, back in in the early century, 19th century.
Yeah. So you both being born here, raised here, and so on and so forth. Can you share with us some of your memories as far as like Lansing as a youth, the neighborhoods where you lived at, in proximity to 496, and how that all happened for you, or how that affected you?
I was born on Birch Street between Olds Avenue and Williams. And in 1942, my dad hit the numbers, and we bought the house on Olds Avenue.
Wow.
And so I grew up on Olds Avenue.
Okay.
And I started Lincoln in 1944 in kindergarten. And I had two older sisters, and that's when we grew up in that neighborhood.
So you said you had a windfall. You made that windfall, and you were able to buy your first home. Huh?
Yeah. Well, my mother was born South, and she has that, the son Birch and them, they had that mentality. They're not scared to ask. My dad was born here in Lansing, and he worked always for a private club, and she went to the bank, and she said, well, Mr. So-and-so, he crazy about my dad, worked at a private club. And she went down and took that $500 and said, Abby's got 3 kids, 3 babies, and we need a house. So.
How about you, Joel, in terms of when you grew up in proximity to the city, 496 in that area?
I grew up on Chelsea Street.
Okay.
And I walked the Lincoln Center play basketball, you do everything, and I went to Michigan Street School, and kind of unique. I never had a black teacher in grade school, junior high school, or college. And I went to school at Michigan Avenue, and I met Gregory because he lived in Oak Avenue, came over here in Michigan, and we had basically a little black street just like Kingsley Court, and everyone had the same thing, nothing. And we had one TV on the street, and the Snells did. We'd go up there, and on Sunday we'd all pack in Snell's house, and everybody would leave the house, the room, one at a time. We were watching TV, and the reason why they did that because they knew better than to ask any of us who wanted anything to eat. And each one of the family went there and had their dinner without ever saying, because everybody did. So yeah, I grew up there.
Yeah. So what about the neighborhoods? Let's talk about how was a lot of diversity there.
Yeah, there was.
So what years are we talking about then?
I don't know, in the 40s. There was a lot of diversity. Some folks were tall, some people were short, but they were all black. You know, and some had a car, and most didn't.
That's diversity.
And so that was the diversity. And we used to play football with newspapers tied together or oatmeal boxes. And I remember I was with Bill Cosby, and he was telling me that we were telling jokes and stories of Gregory. We were up in Lake Tahoe, and he told me at least I was getting the best of him. And he said, at least I grew up in Philadelphia with the lasting side effects. And I said, well, at Chelsea Street, we had the same thing. We had lasting side effects. And he said, what? I said, we played golf, football, the oatmeal boxes are newspapers tied together. And he said, how's that a lasting side effect? And I said, to this day, none of us are good punters. You know, so, and, we used to like going across Jennison and playing with the white kids. And we were like the dead-end kids. We didn't have uniforms, nothing. But that's how we got our footballs. Because they had footballs of some kind. We find a way to take some of them. Yeah. That's how we got them. But anyway,
yeah.
But my neighborhood, you know, when I was a kid, Gurley, Knapp, across the street, my neighborhood was mixed. In them days, we probably had that block I was in only about 7 blacks, 8 blacks, you know. And they went to Main Street School, but we had to go to Lincoln. The whites went to Main Street, we went to Lincoln. There was no, back then there was no blacks. I think Bobby Husband and Sonny Price was the first blacks to go to Main Street, you know, because they moved, you know, later up in that neighborhood. But, so we had, like I said, people across the streets was right. They went to Wayne, and we went to Lincoln. But and you know, my first, Norris's grocery store, and there was, he had a daughter named Kayleen Norris, Flatcliff, and that was my first girlfriend.
Okay.
So it wasn't, but we stood in our places and places. We had the clubhouse and Lincoln Center. Then the two places we socialized back in the days. The women's clubhouse was on the Williams in Lincoln Center.
I answered my question one way. I didn't think of what Gregory said. We had Chelsea Street, but next to us was Washington on Allegan and Michigan Avenue, and it was all white. And so I went to Michigan Avenue Street School, and we all played on the playground. So the people I played with in that, except for the ones who lived on Chelsea Street, were white. We had programs.
So you grew up in some diversity there.
Yeah, that was the diversity I grew up in. In fact, it was so diverse that back when I was a colored kid, for the Christmas program, I was in there and we were singing the Christmas carols, and I can't sing. And so, but they wanted me in the program. So I had to learn all the songs in pantomime, And so that was something, but it was, they wanted me in the program. Looking back, they had, but that was where I grew up on.
Yeah.
But you see that picture up there in the wall at Lincoln Center. All of us, we had I think there's 4 whites, the Fireheads, and then they finally went to Catholic school. But the other pictures up there is Logan Street School.
Morgan Street School?
That was Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
They built Lincoln in '36. And you see a picture, and there's only 3 blacks there, and my dad's in that picture.
Wow.
That's in 1900. So Lincoln, Logan Street was all white, and then the Lebanese and the blacks came in, and that's where and then the Lebanese started going to the Catholic schools. But it was sort of unique, you know.
So like in the neighborhood, you talk about diversity.
And I never had a black teacher.
Really?
Junior high school, never. The first black teacher that came was Miss Lepp, and we were all, you know, that was grade school. We were all in high school and junior high school then.
So like youth sports activities, playing in the neighborhood. Joe, you talked about kicking or not kicking, but playing football with newspapers or whatever. Did you guys have? Were there sports teams that they had?
We had Lansing. You know, Jesse Jackson. He said it right. He said, you know, in those days we spent money on the front side of life. We had playground programs throughout the city. And we had Michigan Avenue, Main Street, Lincoln, Randy Park,
Quinton Park,
all of them. And so we had these summer programs where we play all the schools. We had
softball, Junior Olympics,
Little Olympics, everything else. Now, us black kids from Chelsea Street, you know, when we play, you know, all the black kids on the Michigan Avenue program, the first thing we did when we went over to play Bassett or play one of the other schools, the first move we made was immediately identifying whose glove we were going to use.
Wow.
Because we didn't have it.
So, leave it out there for us.
So that's the first thing we do. And but it was great.
Yeah.
You know, but it was totally. We had the summer programs all day. We played Lincoln. We played that, and
the Junior Olympics.
Yeah.
Stayed at Lincoln. For 10, 12 years.
Junior Olympics stayed at Lincoln until I took over as the playground director at Main Street.
Then it went to Main Street.
Yeah,
because the blacks, it took over Main Street. The blacks, Lincoln was getting closed.
I'm still open. I was just.
Oh no, you wasn't. We put Michigan Avenue, them guys. We were
I thought between Maine and Lincoln.
They still compete.
Maine and Lincoln. Once I got there, we won everything.
No, when he got there, he was out in college, so you know how long that took. We're talking about when we were
back when he was playing, but I'm telling you, I was still a kid, and I had all of them there at the playground. Yeah. And I got the Lincoln Center blacktop. It was all gravel there. First thing I did was I ordered a new basketball net, and the kids looked at me, and it's the next day the net was gone. They told me something. And so I looked at them, I said, "You're the dumbest kids I ever met." I said, "You're going to let someone steal your net? Because I'm not replacing it." The next day, the net was back up because they bought into what I was saying. It was their park and their program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had a cement court. At Lincoln, we had a dirt court.
Yeah.
The baseball field was dirt. Everything was dirt and gravel. I mean, and I got pictures. I get some pictures when we played, and none of us have a uniform.
We never had uniforms.
Yeah. And then College Memorial Church, the old church on Pine Street, gave us a shirt and a hat, and we made it to the finals.
So your high school athletic experience, or junior high and high school athletic, any of that kind of stuff you guys want to share with us and talk about at all?
A lot of the good athletes in junior high and high school should have made the team, and they only were going to pick a few blacks.
Okay. All right.
That's happened to me. They just happened to pick me as a black because the guys who came up with me, and the reason they really took me, because I wasn't necessarily better than Herschel or Outlaw. I was good enough, but the team was all white, basically, and these white folks who ran the thing, my mother fit in better with them than some of the other kids' parents.
Okay.
And I'm convinced that's why where I jumped over some of the guys looking back, and all of a sudden was on the team. That Sexton, and then Gregory, he came a couple years behind me, and now he was good, great athlete. My brothers were, and so now they you know, it's kind of like that joke about how many blacks do you play? You know, back in those days, and it'd be 3 at home, 2 on the road. I mean, 2 at home, 3 on the road, and 5 were behind.
Right.
And Sexton decided so they all of a sudden had a team that was majority of black players. When I played, I was the co-captain of the team with only Joe Thompson there with me. But with Gregory, they had more.
Yeah.
Well, when only people I started with was Joe Thompson. Me and Joe was the only blacks on the team. And then it was Joe and him before me, and then before that it was Art and Ellis. They only had 2, and then before that it was Jimmy Green when they won the championship. But they always had a few, but not. A lot of them teams up there at Lincoln Center, a lot of them kids could have made the section team.
Absolutely. Billy Coleman, Billy
Kelly.
Billy Kelly could play.
Could flat out play.
But they, and Earl Nelson's brother, Turner Nelson, could play. But that was just the way it was. It wasn't our school.
Right.
I mean, it was unbelievable, but because they had some guys that couldn't. They had a guy playing with Joe at guard, Smith. His dad was an attorney. He couldn't chew gum and spit at the same time.
No, he couldn't. But and then Gregory and me, we were the only 2 on the student council Sexton. Way back then.
Was that because you all were driven to do those kind of things, or
We assimilated.
Well, our parents taught us we were as good as anybody.
Right.
Yeah,
My mother and my dad said, so therefore, and that was. I always, today, I'm the same way.
Right.
I mean, I'm supposed to be here.
Right.
So I had that attitude.
Okay.
Me and Gregory have been blessed because we were capable of staying black and relevant in our community, but we knew growing up, we knew how to communicate with white folks and be very comfortable. And so we walk any place. I mean,
So let me ask you this: aside from, let me kind of segue into the next question. Aside from like the family and the influence that they had on you, were there other folks in the community, men and women, that had an impact on your lives or what have you? Case in
Boyd
point.
Eaton, my cousin. See, he was the first 2-time state champ at Sexton.
Okay.
And Gray, both of them were my cousins. So they were my idols coming through. I said, they were small and they were tough. So I took off on that. So
Okay.
they paved the way for me because they were in the 40s.
Right.
And Beverly, my cousin, and she went to Michigan in 1948, and Silly McGee, my other cousin, went to Northwestern in the 40s.
Okay.
So therefore, it's just that when I got to Sexton, I'd check into class and check out another Eaton. They're all over that, and I wasn't a student. So it was very hard for me to compete, But they laid the foundation for me before I got there, And I just kind of picked up the sports after my cousin Bubby. And therefore it puts you in another category,
How about you, Joe?
what's that?
As far as,
People influence me most?
I'm sorry?
Said it
Yeah.
influence?
Right. Folks that influence you, men, women in the community that, for example, when I came along, there were,
First, my mother.
okay, I said outside the family, were there
Okay,
others?
well, I would say Clinton Kennedy
Okay,
and Dick Letts.
okay,
Clinton Kennedy, they would come up to our games when we were playing Salentino, we were playing Stroh's team. But besides that, Clinton would, knowing what I didn't have anything, my teeth, he took care of me. I played in the Marine Corps. I get my teeth knocked out in the basketball game, but I had a root canal that Kennedy put in there for nothing. And Kennedy and Dunnings and those guys were actually true leaders in the community because they gave back. And Dick Letts was extremely active. He'd have Gregory and all them guys and Johnny Hidden playing baseball for him, and he would take him to get him ice cream afterwards, out of his own pocket. There was nothing coming there, and so you develop the respect from guys like that.
right,
And so they were totally instrumental. There was no black teachers at that time for me.
See, Morris Ryder was
And,
big in
yeah,
my
he was
life.
a good guy, and
He started the Lincoln Center program.
and he
I
had
mean,
all
he
the
had
academics.
music,
Yeah.
sports, and he put us in the back of his car. Mr. Les came, he was in college, and he came after me. I mean, he came back to Lansing in 1949, Lincoln convertible, big leather. I mean, it was the prettiest car in the world. But Morris Ryder really started the center.
So was Mr. Ryder an educator? Or
Oh,
was
yeah,
this-
yeah,
Okay.
And music.
Yeah.
He started us with music,
Everything.
arts.
Did he teach at, where was he teaching at?
He was head of Lincoln Center.
Okay.
And then we'd have this youth conference in the summer,
Yeah.
Okay.
and they would bring all the kids together.
Whites and blacks together.
Yeah, and so that's where I met Jack Davis.
Me too, Jack
Yeah,
Davis.
Jack Davis participated in the youth conference center,
Okay.
and he still sees how we got in a debate, it's the thing, and that. So
Yeah.
that's what happened there.
Okay.
But there was a,
And you know, we had idols like Sherman Brunnett and Jimmy Johnson, and then we got some great athletes. I mean, you know, Billy Frazier, all of them were all state football players in the 40s.
Okay. Okay.
And they, you know, they would come in, Jimmy Green and them guys, they would come. Matter of fact, when he came home from school, he had some kangaroo shoes, and he gave them to me, and I wore them till they wore out. They wore out.
So, you talked about participating in like baseball and stuff like that. Did you guys play? Was there youth football programs and so forth?
no,
at the
we
same
played,
time?
we played in baseball and softball. There were no blacks playing Little League football,
Okay.
and
Did they have a program?
Little Spartans.
they had a program. but
East
we weren't-
Lansing had the Little Spartans.
Okay.
But
Suits and
there
everything.
were no blacks playing, and me and Dick Lipscomb formed the Blackhawks.
Yep.
And Spags was our sponsor.
Liquor store, you know,
Sponsor.
Spags.
And we didn't have enough money we got bought uniforms, but it's too funny. We didn't have enough money for everything, so me and Dick decided we wouldn't have hip pads. You know, well, shoot, we were already faster than the team. Now without the hip pads, everybody's wearing hip pads, so we went.
You were my coach.
Yeah, and so then we played the city championship like uptown Saturday night, where when the black hit the champ, then all the blacks stood up and the white.
Right.
So at Quinton Park, the place was on one side was for the championship was all black, the other side was all white, and we're
The
playing
whole
for
west side was
the whole
there.
west side. We're playing for the city championship, and we're up by 5 points, and we're on our own 4-yard line. The wind's in our face, and I don't have a punter, but Sanford Watts could kick from placement. So I call timeout, and I tell Mickey Hill, I said, Mickey, take a safety. You know, we're going to take a safety, and then Sanford could kick that ball down the field, but if I had to punt, then the punt would go straight in the air.
Nice.
So the kids come out of the huddle. Now we're 98 yards from the goal. And the kids came out of the huddle, and they didn't line up in punt formation. And they handed the ball to Eddie Gardner, and he went 98 yards for a touchdown. And the folks broke through the ropes. They ran, and they started hugging me, and like I called the play. But I didn't, because Mickey and the kids got in the huddle, and they couldn't comprehend taking a safety. So they went and figured out to call their own play. And they went 98 yards and we won the game, and everybody thinking I was genius.
Yeah.
Man. And that was, you know, I mean,
You was Nick Saban.
and when I'm coaching the kids, they, you know, I had good players, so every down they'd be in motion, offside. So I made every play on 2. I just didn't care if the other team knew when we were coming. I wanted to make certain we knew when we were coming.
Right.
But that was what we got in youth football, you know.
So this would have been like the 60s, mid-60s, late 60s. when all
Kind of
this
right
happened.
before you started, really.
The reason why I asked is because I wanted to go and we got to move on because I know you're under time constraints. The talk about 496, the highway coming through the expressway and so forth. Rumors about that stuff early on. Were you all aware of that? Did you know anything about that?
Oh yeah, I mean they came through the neighborhood. My parents and most most people were but nothing we could do. When they took Oldsmobiles home, and he had to force blocks.
Okay.
And watch, they took his home.
Who's?
O's.
Riley O's lived in
R.E.
where did they live at in there?
Washington Avenue between
Right.
St. Joe and Maine.
Right. Yeah, okay,
The
I got
four-
you. Right.
The whole 4 blocks,
Right.
right to the middle. They came right through it.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And I knew, everyone knew we were in trouble.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
mean, here, he put Lansing on the map.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
But it didn't make any difference because the city, he never really took care of Lansing like Ford and them, So the politics played their part, so they just, so what? We just take it home and run through it because it's in the middle.
Okay.
Now, they wouldn't move the house. The house, matter of fact, when I was a kid, I'd drive by there. His wife, he put a circle so she didn't know how to get it in reverse. So he push a button and the garage thing, we'd love to look at it. They turned it around and then she drove straight out. I mean, but that's, so if they took that part, I
We'd have a
thought
chance.
we were in trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
They didn't harm, well, they had a riot in Lansing, after Martin Luther King was killed and everything. In so many cities, the neighborhoods got burnt down, the stores
Right.
and everything else.
Right.
But in Lansing, the reason we didn't get burned down is we didn't have nothing to burn down.
Right.
We had Don Bills, we had a
Russell
Cruises,
Field.
we had that, but there was nothing that we had. We were not burning anything, and the stuff wasn't centralized enough to where it was a huge impact.
So you got the only business we had in that area was Rankin Lewis's business, and they wasn't gonna burn that down.
What about Tropicana? Was that still alive?
Tropicana at,
They just missed that?
yeah, that was,
At Division
see,
Street?
that was Dr.
Division.
Kennedy's
Yeah,
office. His first office was
yeah,
there.
under the.
And then the Post, and then Teen Town, and
Right.
then the Tropicana.
Oh, okay.
So you mentioned that your parents bought your first home. When they came through there and were offering, is that when you all moved out, when 496 came in, or had you
No,
left?
no, we kept the house, and they bought the house up on Sexton.
Okay.
And my sister lived in that house.
Okay. So when the city came through, I guess, or the
What time I
state
get
came
there, I'll
through,
do this big interview.
purchasing the homes.
Now, Oldsmobile bought our
Okay,
house.
okay. So one of the things that is often been talked about was whether or not folks were taking advantage of. I mean, they were offered a price for those homes. Do you think that they were offered fair prices, or they just
No, because there were better houses there than there were in Churchill Downs.
Okay.
You can compare them houses. They had wood floors, fireplaces. I mean, yeah, they were took advantage,
Right.
but they took that money and ran. It's just like, you get some. You're not used to having any cash money like that,
Right.
and they come in, and a lot of people took it, and a lot of people sold to somebody else, and then they took it. Now he made more money with the Oldsmobile house. I sold to the Oldsmobile, and to the state. But them days, I mean, the state, you want the state or Oldsmobile to buy because you got more money. Once the city start taking, you didn't get.
And Derek, without getting ahead of you, just one, one thinking point.
You've been ahead of me since you got in this thing.
No, what I'm saying is, I can go back, but I just was thinking about, all of us saw the movie The Help. And in The Help, they all didn't have them buses take everyone. Okay, well, back in our day, there was a station wagon going through the neighborhood that picked everybody up, because at the country club, all the help was black.
Cooks.
And cooks and everything else.
My
and then
dad, they picked my dad up, bartender.
and then packed up, and then Gregory, he talks about me today because I was a field hand being a caddy, and he was in the big house. But that's just the way
It was art.
Yeah.
See, my dad owned a shoe shop downtown,
Yeah.
and he did all the shoes in there, and wingtips and stuff clean. He couldn't do that. I was a skilled worker.
I know. I shine shoes for Barry Amos, and he got rid of me because I polished more socks than anybody. I mean, because that's true. I mean, I polished more socks than anybody. But what I'm saying is that it was a plantation, and there was no wonder that after me and Gregory joined the country club, there were a number of white guys there who were there when our families were working, and they had real trouble. They had more trouble with us coming because they had something over us when we were growing up because we were barely working there, and they were there, and all of a sudden, here we are. So there were some progressions, but as far as neighborhoods, Chelsea Street, Maple, and Kingsley Court, nothing happened there because it wasn't a heavy enough concentration. But for Gregory, who lived on Olds Avenue and Williams, and we lived eventually on Main, then there was all connected together, and they took that out, and that's how there's a change.
Talk about
Lincoln, like Alexander's. He had a place with an ice cream, big thing. That's when we socialized as a kid. Go up there and get, and that was where we socialized. People would bring their bowl to get this. I had the best ice cream going. Bowls would be covered over with wax paper. Go home. But that's what we had, and we had and Matthews.
Footlongs.
The footlongs. Yeah, that's what we had, and it was all in that area.
Right.
And me and your sister, Diane used to go get that ice cream at Vibes at Alexander's.
Yeah. So talk about redlining when folks were the highway, the expressway came through, and folks were moving out or whatever. There were restrictions on where we could buy and where we could move, and so on and so forth. Do you have any comments or any thoughts about that?
Well, we moved off. I came home from California in '60. And I think we moved off that house in '62. And I remember my dad said, look at this, when they bought that house, no one, by Saxon, no one of the Caucasian race can buy in this area. I was right in that strip.
Oh, Caucasians, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only Caucasian.
Oh, okay. All right.
There was, in part, was because of money. But I'm saying that, yes, we wanted to get up across Jennison, and there were a few houses there, Dick Wetz and a few others, but most of the folks didn't have the money to really move way across town and everything else, so we'd be, off of Kingsley Court, off of Maple, in other little pockets around. Now, Gregory and me are a little different. Gregory just by nature maintains a tremendous yard, and he likes doing it, But I had a complex because folks were saying we wouldn't sell us houses because we wouldn't keep our yards up. Okay, well, I made a point to make certain my yard is right because everybody sees it, but I'm just not capable of doing it. Gregory,
See, my grandfather had a house. And my uncles, all of them were brick, and when I was a kid, they were just so beautiful, all laid out. Right. And then my dad's house, he was the same way. So it was just, I like to do it, but I was just grown up in it. It's just the pride. My mother says no one comes in your house, but everybody comes by your house.
Mm-hmm.
And that was drilled in me since I was a kid. I mowed the lawn when I was, as a kid, and once a week, or never let the grass grow high,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: did the state of Michigan need an expressway, or did they use that as an excuse to disperse blacks? I'm right down to the nitty-gritty, and that's redlining. And that's where you were going to move.
Look to the day if we wouldn't have it. Now, you remember when the first bill knowing, you can't live at 5 o'clock today. I don't take it anymore. I go another way because it's so. Yeah.
No question. It's a benefit. Without question.
And they took it to the cheapest way they could go through our neighborhoods. And some whites got it too now.
Oh, no question.
Yeah, but it was this. It was.
Yeah. But part of the problem. I'm just. We can talk redlining one thing, but it's still money. When I grew up, none of us even had jobs driving the bus. And as far as business, I went to school to be a school teacher because that's the only job I thought I could get. because I didn't see anyone. There were no black foremen in the factory.
No.
Huh?
No.
So there was, you know, it
Rudy
was
Wilson
all,
was the first salary employee
yeah.
in chemistry in 50.
And there was so none of us really, so red line's a good thing to say, but it's kind of like when Spike Lee and Will Smith boycotted the Academy Awards, and
right.
Chris Rock is the MC, and he said, how can you boycott something you weren't invited to? Okay, so how could you redline me out of a neighborhood I couldn't buy into?
Right. Now, had the highway never came, do you, in your opinion, both of you, think that blacks would have been better off? Would we had 2 or 3 Johnny record shops now? Would we have 5 or 10 more barber shops now? We have a place that we don't have except for Gregory right now. I can go out that door and go to literally 20 Mexican restaurants right in the city of Lansing, and he's the only one I can come sit down and eat soul food. Why? I mean, I don't understand.
I question that all.
That ain't race.
No, it's not. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, had not the expressway come on this question, would we be better off or worse off?
Worse off with what?
In terms of being dispersed. We all live, right now, still live down there, and the highway never came. Everybody
First
still
of
lives
all,
down St. Joe.
restaurants, you need a liquor license. The only liquor license in this city was the Elks and the Masons. They're private. So Joe was on the city council. They was going to do four lists license. I looked at him, he looked at me, he says,
Well, I told him on the city council, no blacks have liquor license.
yeah. And that's how this liquor license
And he said, there's going to be a black, and I'm naming him.
But over above that, I mean,
That's what happened there.
other
But,
venues,
you know,
clothing
it
stores.
costs money. Now, Sonny had a beer and wine first, and then he won a license. But this was the first license issued from the state,
Yep.
which called $500. To get a license, you needed, you know, back in them days, $15,000 to $20,000 cash, and you know, and he had, and not many people could do that.
Yeah.
When I started, I made in the factory $1 and when we worked at Fisher Body, $1.55 an hour in a factory. So I knew that I wasn't going to college, so therefore I always wanted to be in business. So I had bartenders, I had Dick Liscombe all on work from the side, I had my janitorial service, and you know, and I had that, and that's how I started, because I made more money 2 years out of high school than my dad and mother made together, and she was a supervisor of the state of Michigan. And they raised all us kids and went to college and then took the grant. That was, it's money, like Joe said. Financially,
didn't have enough to be redlined. No, I can't buy it. But you asked a great question. You made a point here. Are we better off or not better off? Okay, because of the old times we can do this and that. The best one, the best analogy I give you is the skating, roller skating. We couldn't go roller skating at the skating rinks, but only a certain day on Mondays or Wednesdays.
every other Monday.
But the beauty was on that. It's gone. So our Lansing skating party would be Monday. So people came from Battle Creek, Albion, you know, Jackson, and since everyone knew everyone was going to be there, it prospered. Okay, so
Everyone wanted to go.
But once they opened it up to where we could go to any skating rink, it died because everyone wanted to go someplace where they knew everyone else was there.
There you go.
And so once you knew, and you were just going out there to plain roller skate because you were really going to roller skate. It's kind of like a restaurant. You know you're in the right place. You have to wait to get in.
Sundays
if you walk right in, you think you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And so, but you're right. Some of the things with integration and things it changed. It killed Idlewild. Okay? You know, and I'm just saying it's an inverse thing. There's some good things happen, some things didn't happen because of whatever happened. And putting the road where it went, the folks who were making the decision didn't look like any of us.
Right.
So exclusively, they're not going to take out their neighborhood with everyone and all them houses right together. They're going to look, and so if O's was a casualty taking his place out, trust me, with his lawyers and his people, he got paid a lot more per square foot than the folks who look like us.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I'm trying to
I
do.
got one more question. We'll get back to Jerry. The two of you gentlemen, both are friends, came up around the same time. What one thing, man, what one, if I could do it all over again, I would. If I could do it all over again, I would.
I wouldn't change a bit.
Okay?
Yeah,
Here we go.
You change, to me, I've been blessed. So changing something,
Right.
I mean, it was just, I just was blessed and worked at it hard, and God blessed me.
and we both had exposure to how someone else was living, and so we knew that this is where we wanted to be. I'm saying if we, the one way dictators prosper was lack of communications. If people don't know, or TV today where everybody sees how everybody else is living, then you decide you're not happy where you are unless you see what everybody else had. Look, back in those days, me and Gregory were fortunate. We got exposed to some other things, and we knew that's what we wanted. I mean, Gregory ended up working with the auto dealers, and when he did, and Bill Haley and others, he went every place and he saw things.
Yeah, and I used to make, they said, well, white people don't, they never lived a Saturday night like we had. Saturday night. I said, they do it every day.
Right.
They don't have to wait to Saturday.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference, but you gotta have, when I started with the auto dealers in '63, and then with the captain stuff, I knew senators, state reps from all over the state. I had auto dealers from all over the state, and me. So therefore, and I've been to parties in Vegas, and people ask me to get them a drink because
They didn't know better.
they didn't know
You
better.
weren't supposed to be there.
Right. And I went and got one, and Gil did that to me and smiled. He did that to me one day and smiled. He said, that was awfully nice. You handled that very well. But, that's the way it was back then. The doctors, that picture over there in '64, we couldn't stay in Miami Beach. We couldn't stay on the beach. We had to go to the black hotels. We couldn't do that. After integration, them hotels just, the first hotel we could stay in was the Holiday Inn. They opened the Holiday Inn in Miami Springs. And that was like, oh man, because the black hotel, a busy weekend, you didn't get clean sheets every day. So it was just a change. It was just like, some days I think about it and I'm like, we're at Miami. Ziggy Johnson was the MC at the Flame Show Bar. The Flame Show Bar was the place in Detroit, John Arthur Canfield. Boom, White Spectre, Bobby Lane, everybody was there. So he knew Sinatra. So we were at the Hampshire house. He called Sinatra. Count Basie was playing at the Fontainebleau, it just opened. And Sinatra's got, we came through the kitchen with the band by the back door, and here's everything, and set tables for us. I never forget. That opened my eyes to a lot of things. Here's the guys, Count Basie, playing for Sinatra, and could not come through that door.
Wow.
We had to come through the kitchen, there's so many things that's changed, and I see these young people today, they don't know what that generation, entertainers and people like that, paid for us to get where we are today.
You talked, Joe, you talked a couple times about exposure and opportunities and so on and so forth. This past Monday, you were recognized, and I believe both of you have been honored with receiving the King Legacy Award. And with that, Gregory, some of the things that came out where they talked about your exposure and how you played a role, or your family played a role with like athletic programs and so forth, and black athletes coming to Michigan State University, and how significant your family's role was in doing those kind of things. You want to share anything with us about that? Or can you
I'll never forget
that?
it. I mean, Sunday morning, I had to go to church on Sunday. I come downstairs, Don Coleman be sleeping over here. They didn't get back to school. They didn't get to campus. My mother would feed them, my dad, and then would take them back. And that was because they lived in Lansing. They went to school there, but they lived in Lansing. The barber shops, the this, the church, the Elks, and parties. So they were, and all families knew they were in college, so they just threw their arms around us.
Okay.
Like Joe's grandma, she ran
the Alpha House.
Alpha House.
She was the mother for the Alpha House.
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, because that was pretty moving when they talked about that. You also were a Legacy Award recipient, weren't you?
Was that?
The
Yes.
King Legacy Award recipient, you were a recipient of that as well. Any comments, thoughts, and you want to share with us about that?
No, I'll tell you, I got so emotional. I was surprised and pleased. Just like, and Gregory gets on me. See, Greg got on me. He said, how come you didn't tell me ahead of time? I said, well, I couldn't because, the surprise and you speaking from your heart. And both me and him had the same problem because we missed our parents here.
Yeah.
Because we wanted them to, and so being Martin Luther King, the award meant so much to me, in the community to be honored that way. It's always means more to be honored by your peers and your community. I've had other honors. I've been honored with honorary doctorates and all that stuff. It meant nothing to have that there award. And I'm going to sidebar on one point. Bob Green was here for breakfast this morning. And Bob Green had me, I'm in Washington, and I ended up having dinner with Martin Luther King and Andy Young and Bob Green. The four of us had dinner in Washington. And Andy Young says to Martin, he said, Martin, maybe we ought not stay overnight in Washington tonight because we got to be in New York in the morning. Let's go to New York in the morning. So I said, fine. So look at me, I'm just a young city councilman. I'm staying at like a Red Roof or something. And Martin turns to me and he said, Joel, he says, I got a suite at the Washington Hilton. And he asked where I stay, and I told him. He said, here's my key. You take the suite to the Washington Hilton. Okay, so I'm a young guy who's not used to being anywhere, but I had some friends in D.C. So I got on the phone and I called everybody up, and said, hey, I got the suite here at the Washington Hilton, man, let's get over here, we're party. Okay, so fast forward 4 years later, they have NACD banquet, and Representative Fauntleroy was the speaker, and I get introduced. City Councilman Joe Ferguson. So Fauntleroy, a little break, he comes down and he said, Joe Ferguson, he said, I heard you. He said, that was quite a party you had. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm on a certain House committee and we're investigating J. Edgar Hoover, and Hoover bugged all of Martin's rooms. And the network of the hotels told him where Martin was staying, and so that room was bugged, and instead of hearing him, we heard you. And so it's just a snapshot of the world, and wow. So when you saw that movie Hoover, and I said, I lived it because I firsthand, I knew what had happened,
right.
And so forth. Now, I'm just going to say one thing about Gregory. Gregory, has been successful, but what he's more successful in is caring about the community.
Right.
Because having Gregory's is not something that be your model to where you're going to make a lot of money. Right. But more than once, Gregory said to me, he said, I'm open because there should be a place for the community to go to and to be at, and so it's very important. And I think that what we all learned here in Lansing, growing up, is that we're not going to try to be in heaven by ourselves, because if you're there by yourself, it's not heaven.
Right.
And so that's the foundation we got from our parents, we got from the leadership way back, in the community who actually cared. I mean, I think of Kennedy, I think of the folks before us, I think of Gregory's family and everything else. And I agree that, yes, we were red line, but the red line wasn't as impactful as much as the jobs we weren't getting. You know, we were getting jobs where they had a station wagon pick us up. We were getting jobs on a line in the factory. We were getting jobs where we were sweeping the street. We weren't getting jobs where we were making enough money to make an impact in those neighborhoods that we can get to today. And that's what I'm.
Well, we're gonna wrap this up, guys. I got one more question that Bill got one, or Derek, or Dez, or Kenny. And you answered this question when we did your interview at your home, and I gotta have it again. What in the world happened to the Jabberwock and the Cotillion? I mean, that was the iconic events that the black folks had for the Jabberwock and the Cotillion. We had for so many years, and this year there's only one girl at it, and started out with 25 or 30 years.
Yeah. See, my mother was one of the founders of that, started that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We forget and don't be picking it back up. I mean, and Lansing, I mean, I love Lansing. I love Lansing. And Lansing has a lot. I mean, I'm doing a wall. I mean, Joe, first city council. Sam Hopkins, first chief. You know, things like that, which Jack Davis, first judge. I mean, we had things that all of us grew up within us. So you guys were, all of us came up in that.
That's right. That's right.
And we got to tell the young people, that's what, you got to work at it. I'm glad what you guys are doing. You know.
I had a stereotype complex. I'm running to be the first black elected in Lansing. And the reason I ran is because when they had the riot, I was a spokesman for the young folks in the street.
That's right.
And then I found they were playing us. And so I ran to be on the inside. The election's in the winter. But I'm so paranoid about how we look. I had the worst yard signs anyone ever had. Because it's winter and my signs are white. Oh, wow. But I was afraid to have fancy colors and everything else because I felt that was a stereotype. That's what they expected from us.
Right.
So here, Lou Adado, he's Lebanese, and he's got bright colors and everything else. And here I got these signs that you couldn't see because I'm in this stereotype thing that I'm afraid that how people, you know, I can't look this way and it can't, you know, and all this sort of stuff. So
Joe's going to the National Democrat, and I went by the house.
Chair of the National
he had a gray
black shirt. Gregory threw it away eventually.
I say, hey, with Kazi checks, he stopped up that plane, he's clean. For the day, they stuck a mic, and he said, Greg, I'm so glad.
Gregory
I said, you ain't representing us. Let's go to Kazi checks.
I was so democratic, I didn't think anyone bought a suit once they had a suit.
Right.
Wow. Okay, well, listen, I think that, first off, we want to say that we should appreciate.
Well, I'm just having fun. I thought we were just getting started.
I don't know if you will.
I got to go. Max Coon, I'm going to the hospital right now. Max, who's one of my closest friends, has pneumonia, but he passed out. And so they think it's his heart, and they're worried about getting blood to his brain along with oxygen. And so he's in, so like I said, I'm going to
certainly with thoughts and prayers with Max. Thoughts and prayers with Max. He's certainly
down in the area where a lot of the black businesses were, I'm trying to name of the street, I'm thinking there where the Tropicana used to be.
Division.
How many businesses were up in that area? Because to me, growing up, that was like my downtown to a degree.
Well, you had Division, you had the Grill, you had Bar and Tennis, which Mr. Bass was the only bodyguard, black bodyguard.
Okay.
And then you had the Tropicana and the Teen Town and Post. That was all in that building. And then you come down the street, you had the flower store. Mrs. Smith's Flowers. She was the first one with the flower store. And then on the corner of between St. Joe and Main, on Division, you had Mill Jones Cleaners. You had PJ's Coffee Shop.
Yeah.
You had, and then you go down, you had the Black Forest restaurant, and that's where Dr. Candy's office, second office was. So that was gone. You had Rankin Lewis. He was on St. Joe, and they moved him. Then you had Alexander's was on O's. They moved him. Matthews, they moved them out. They closed them. Henry the Hatter on St. Joe, they closed him. Let's Fashion was across the street. They closed that when they took that. So that was, because we only had, because that's all I always wanted to be. All of them were my idols. I always wanted to be in business. And them was my mentors. They were just, when I used to be on the truck with Rankin Lewis, that's why I got him up there,
Gregory, me and Gregory, we formed a business. The state's football team was so hot. We went and got sun visors.
Ed Morse made them for us.
Yeah, we got these sun visors. We're gonna sell them. So we
first game of the year.
First game, we got a little sun visors on. No sun. And I'll never forget. I went up to Dick Booth and I said, the sun visors are a dime here, and you get the side visor. And he said to me, why don't I give you a dime and you keep the visor? I got smart because I didn't do it intentionally, but the guy who charged the paper and everything was Gregory instead of me. So I didn't feel as bad as Gregory did because they were chasing Gregory.
Joe didn't, I'm at a business, so they looked at me, they ran me down. They said, Joe ain't got nothing, we gonna get you. He laughed. Because as soon as the paper, it wasn't good enough, and I signed for it like a damn fool, like me. I
felt bad for it too. But anyways, I've got to run. Any question anyone wants to ask me? And Gregory will have 10 more answers without me talking over it.
Joel,
Yes,
I can't remember who told me, but I think they were in business with you for a short time, maybe, to do some record promotion or music promotion?
I went with Earl Nelson and Bobby Husband and Clarence Underwoods.
Clarence told me.
Yeah, and we were going to try to be in the record and the producing business and all that. I didn't understand it. And I'm a true person who says music's a gift. Because when I was taking band in junior high school, Mr. Chambers gave me a grade not to play. So anyway.
What was the instrument? What instrument did you try to play?
I tried to play the drums, but I had no rhythm.
Wow.
Don't ask that question. But listen, thanks a lot.
All right.
Greg will, without me talking over him, he'll say a lot more for you.
Oh, he's
okay?
good.